It's episode 26 today, and we're going to be looking at the question, who do you think you are? I think I've spent an awful lot of time kind of unconsciously preparing for this question, worrying that I'm going to be asked this question, and being afraid of not having a good answer. So today, exploring this question with me today is Abigail Rebecca, the founder of Illuminated Leaders. It's great to have you on the show. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here with you today.
Yeah, this is a really good one. And we were just chatting before we went live, and not all of my guests are quite as experienced as Abby here, so it's going to be an interesting one for me as well. I'm kind of feeling slightly nervous myself about like whether I do it right. Yeah, we shall see. But yeah, so if you're new to the show, Delightful Dissent is really about those kind of hidden beliefs and implicit stuff, and the stuff that can really trip us up, because it's just there. It's just part of the furniture, and it gets in the way of doing things differently and doing things how we want to do them. This show might well give you some tips about specific ideas that can help you with that, and specific things that might be helping you back. But more importantly, what I want to do is really normalize this process of challenging these things, getting these ideas out there and thinking about these things in a different way. So hopefully it'll give you some ideas about how you can go out there and challenge some ideas and think about things differently yourself. It's Delightful Dissent because, yeah, it is about actually standing up and saying, no, I disagree, this isn't quite right, I don't see the world this way, but doing so in a positive way and a fun way. And it doesn't have to be about winning and proving yourself completely right. It's much more of an exploration and just seeing what happens. And on that topic, this show is genuinely live, so stuff may go wrong. If anything happens, please do bear with us if we get any technical issues or anything. We also, we often talk about some quite personal things, so there may be challenging topics that come up. There may be things that you find difficult, so please be warned about that. Equally, there may be strong language, so if that's an issue for you, then please be warned as well. We're not looking for perfect answers here. It's really about asking questions for yourself, and equally asking us questions. So if you have any questions, please do share them in the chat, and we'd be very happy to explore them and bring your stuff in. So yeah, I was reintroduced to Abby a few weeks ago, because we've met before, and to my shame, I hadn't actually recognised the name, though. When we got speaking, I kind of remembered. It's a thing for me. I kind of remember people by what they do and what they talk about and what they love, rather than their names, which is good and bad. It causes some awkwardness sometimes. But I was really struck by how she's very much herself, and has this really lovely presence, but in a way that doesn't prevent anyone else from being that way, and doesn't prevent anyone else from being themselves. And so often people with a kind of strong presence can be overwhelming, and it can feel like there isn't space to be you as well as them. But I was really struck by how she manages to be both of those things and have her own strong presence and give space to others. So I was really keen to get her on the show today. So yeah, I think I've been talking for long enough now. So could I ask you to describe a little bit about your work and the people that you work with, please?
Yeah, it's a pleasure, and thank you so much for that. Like, I'm so touched by that, Matthew. Thank you. And you don't remember me. I remember you. Like, you really stood out. I remember you being so friendly and personable, and I remembered you for being that. And I think what you're doing on this show is just incredible. Bringing people on and having having conversations that are important, really, really important. So thank you so much for having me on the show. So, you've already introduced me. So, my name is Abby. I'm a visibility coach. I'm a stylist. I'm a speaker. I'm the founder of Illuminated Leaders, and I empower visionary entrepreneurial women to be highly visible in the Aquarian age. And I'm not going to go into too much detail about what the Aquarian age is. You can Google it and find out. But, I'm sure that we're all aware that we are moving into a new age. We're moving into a new paradigm. The way that we the way that we build relationships, the information that we have access to is completely different to how it was years ago. We are moving away from hierarchical structures and more into collaboration and relationship building. And I really, really stand for women stepping forward and taking more of a leadership role, but using their own like juiciness, like, you know, their own kind of like womanly superpowers. We as women are really good at relationship building and collaboration and manifesting and nurturing. And I think that those skills have been seen definitely in the past, maybe in more patriarchal times, as, you know, kind of soft skills. And I'm all for kind of bringing that to the front and, you know, really empowering women to be more visible so that they can actually go out there with a voice and feel more confident in what they have to say. So I really stand for that. I really stand for empowering everyone really in this world to, you know, live healthier, wealthier, happier lives. So that's what I do, and I coach and I host retreats and I speak on stages, and I have a good time doing it all.
Excellent. I love it. And I really like that idea of, you know, empowering without taking away from other people. You know, I think that's a really lovely way to approach it. And that, you know, that idea that it's not about like replacing, it's about complementing and growing. And that's a really nice way to approach something that's actually quite, you know, it's a difficult thing to stand up in front of people and to be visible, particularly when that's not like, when there's some aspect of you that isn't a normal one of those, you know, that you know, when it's not expected and when you haven't been rewarded for it in the past. So yeah, no, it's great. So before we get into the actual kind of discussion and into the assumption, I like to ask my guests to share a quote with that kind of supports their position or gives us a bit of a different perspective. So have you got something that you'd like to share with us?
I do, yes. My quote is, once you learn how much you're worth, you'll stop giving people discounts. And I've no idea who did that quote, who said it in the first place, but I love it and I think it's brilliant, and I think it really stands for everything that we're speaking about today, certainly everything that I do in my work, and you know, so many incredible women, people in this world that do the same kind of work. You know, it's about empowering ourselves, it's about really owning our own voice and our own opinions, and really learning to respect ourselves and to consider ourselves worthy of all the abundance in the world. You know, to be healthy, to be happy, to be wealthy, it's our birthright. And I just think, you know, there are a lot of people in this world that are just brilliant. They're so incredible. They've got such amazing gifts, but they hold back because there are worries that they have about, you know, what other people think about them, what other people will say, you know, being judged, who's going to listen to what I say. You know, there's so many limiting beliefs and doubts that we have. So this is really a conversation around self-love and worthiness.
I think it's really interesting, Will, as well. For me, you know, kind of the mind immediately jumps to money, but actually there's something around discounting, you know, giving yourself away cheaply, you know, and not valuing your time and your energy and your attention and all of those other aspects, and your joy, and you know, as well as and perhaps more importantly than just the money side of things. For me, I love I love that approach, and it is such a big thing, particularly when you end up working when the normal boxes don't fit. You know, when there isn't a direct pathway, and it's almost like a sense, you know, I feel the sense almost that you have to earn the right. You know, there's definitely something there about like earning it, and who do you think you are really plays into that. You know, the question that we're looking at is like, who are you to do this, to say this, to charge this, to do that? You know, it's like, who do you think you are to do this? And that definitely is a voice that's there, kind of, that is still there a little bit for me, interestingly. So yeah, but what does it mean to you? What was it that made you want to talk about this specifically today?
Certainly I can relate to everything that you've been saying. You know, I think about really the journey that I've been on and the journey that I help others through, you know, and really this whole holding back from being your true authentic self, from really being yourself and showing yourself. We were talking when we first connected, actually offline a few weeks ago, you know, we were talking about the masks, about the masks that we put on, mask upon mask upon mask. And you know, I think as human beings we are capable of so much, and this really is an incredible life. It's an incredible experience, and we can decide whether, you know, it's going to be a good experience or whether it's going to be a bad experience. We have the choice to do that, but we also have the choice, you know, about whether we, you know, what we want to create in our lives. And it really it's a real passion of mine to help people overcome any blocks that are stopping them, you know, holding them back. And you were just talking about, you know, about discounts. It's not just about money. No, it's not, you know, it's about, you know, when you think about the word wealth, you know, it's not just money, it's health, it's time, it's energy. And to stop giving your energy away, and stop giving your time away, and stop, you know, being self-deprecating and putting yourself down, and, you know, talking shit about yourself, and all the things that we do as humans, you know, all the things that society expects us to be. You know, you can't be too confident, you can't love yourself too much, you can't be too loud, you can't be too clever, you can't be too beautiful, you can't be too sexy. And I'm like, oh no, like, these are the restraints that society have put us on. And these voices inside our head, you know, like the who do you think you are? Like, I just think about it from school. Like, who does she think she is? You know, and I've not only been on the receiving end of that, I've also said it myself. Who she thinks she is? You know, like, it's a real put down, and that's a real put down as well that women use against other women. There's a lot of competition, there's a lot of hurt. There's a lot of hurt, and there's a lot of healing to be done in this world. Relationship healing between women and women, men and men, men and women, you know, human to human. And I'm just, the reason that I do this work is that I'm just really excited to be part of that, to be part of the revolution, to be part of the movement, and to support people as we move into this new paradigm, this new world, this age of Aquarius. Exciting.
It is. I think for me, I think there's also, in my experience, is that there's an inward healing as well as the external relationships, and that inner, you know, because a lot of this does end up inside us, our previous experiences, and you kind of play it out if you don't heal it. And I guess you can play it out in the outside world. It's this thing, you know, your inside world and outside world kind of reflect one another in many ways. And that can actually be quite the difficult thing, you know, if you are seeking to change things, you know, stuff shifts when you do it, and there's going to be change inside and change outside at the same time, or as part of the same work. And that can be, I guess, one of the things where we push up against this barrier, where people expect a certain thing from us. You know, they expect us to do a thing, or they expect us not to do a thing, and then we don't do it, or we do it, and then like, well, what? You know, and that's a challenge for people. I think that's actually one of the big resistances to this is like we expect a certain type of person to be allowed to do a certain thing in some ways. It's a very strange idea when I actually say it out loud, but it's definitely there.
Yeah, and it's definitely a reflection. You know, another one of my favorite sayings, and I use it all the time on my website. I'm always banging on about it, you know, when I'm speaking, is that, you know, your results are a reflection of how you're feeling inside. For sure. Like, any result that you're unhappy with in your life, anything, you look inside yourself. This whole, like, the whole world is like, it's all made up. It's like, it's just a fact. It's not a reality. Like, you know, our experiences happen inside of ourselves. So you and I can go somewhere and have, you know, I use the analogy of going on a roller coaster. You and I can go on a roller coaster ride, and exactly the same ride, sat next to each other, and you could be there throwing your, I don't know, do you like roller coasters?
No.
Oh, okay, well, both of us will be screaming because I hate them as well. Anyway, well, both of us could be like on one side screaming,
but someone else will be loving it. Yeah.
And there'll be somebody else that'll be like, yeah, like my partner Kev, he'll be like at the front, like, woo. And you know, so it's exactly the same experience, but how we're relating to it is it's happening to us inside. So we decide how we're going to experience something, and then the filters that we use, as this is a good experience or it's a bad experience, or I'm happy about this or I'm unhappy about this, the filters of you know what we decided when we were younger. You know, that we determined all of this when we were younger. We've inherited it from our parents, we've inherited it down the ancestral line. So a lot of our opinions of this world, we didn't even decide ourselves. It was decided, you know. So very often we are living our lives based on the opinions of somebody else. Now when you can break out of that, that's incredible. It's incredible feeling, because then you're like, well, I can create whatever I want, I can design whatever I want. I don't need to conform to somebody else's opinions or, you know, somebody else's identity of me. I can do whatever the hell I want. I can create whatever the hell I want. I can, you know, within reason, without highly offending anyone, I can say whatever I want. And it's so liberating to set yourself free from that. So liberating.
I think for me, one of the perhaps the slightly circular thing to say, but the things that surprises me is actually that I kind of surprise myself now. Perhaps almost more than other people. I guess I've kind of got these, was definitely carrying other people's expectations, and was like, well, this is what I am because this is what other people think I am. You know, because we don't experience, we don't really experience ourselves as other people do. So we take these guesses as to you know, how they're experiencing us, and then what we are on some level. And so I'm, you know, I'm definitely thinking, yeah, actually, I kind of surprise myself sometimes now. It's one of the really nice things. It's like, oh, yeah. And actually, yeah, I probably am surprising other people sometimes as well. But actually, the really rewarding bit is my own experience of myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's nice to surprise yourself.
It is. It is. Yeah. I think that ability to be surprised and to be surprising is definitely part of this. You know, the certainly in work, that need for predictability is really, really high very often. You know, organizations only feel safe, and some people only feel safe when things are absolutely predictable and they know exactly what they're going to get, even if it isn't very good. It's like it matters more that we predicted it right and we figured it out and we know what's going to happen than whether it's good or not.
That's why I can't, like, that's why I don't work in corporate.
Yeah.
Like I it's so old paradigm. I just can't bear it. I can't bear it. You know, that's why I'm like mega into cryptocurrency at the moment, because it's like it's breaking out of all the systems. It's like it's completely out of our comfort zones. It's so volatile. Who knows what's happening? But there's kids like in their bedrooms that are like becoming billionaires because they're like, you know, trading on crypto, or they're like, you know, doing TikToks and becoming an influencer and then being sent like loads of money, you know, by companies to promote their products, or they're starting up their own tech companies. Like everything has just been thrown out the window. It's so unpredictable, and I feel it's so important for us to be able to upgrade our brains, especially at our age. I mean, I'm just turned 47. Right. So I'm a child of the 70s. I was not brought up with a phone in my hand. You know, these kids that are coming up now, they're programmed in a different way. It's fascinating. Like they're on it. But like, you know, what about us? What about our generation? Certainly a lot of the women that I work with, you know, they're in the 30s, 40s. So, you know, a lot of this is like, how do we change, you know, the way that we operate, the way that we see the world in order to be able to keep up with this? Because technology is like, it is so progressive, it's moving so quickly. So how can we, you know, take all of that in and you know, develop ourselves, develop our brains, and, you know, to continuously learn, I think is what keeps us young. When we get stuck in a rut, it's when we're so worried about other people's opinions and we have to be a certain way, and, you know, we can't be this and we can't be that, and, you know, we're so judgy of other people, and in turn we're judging ourselves. That to me is like complete death. Like, you might as well, like, come on, like, learn. Even if you make loads of mistakes and feel ridiculous when you're doing it, like, I just, you know, I feel equally alive and empowered and excited, and equally like stupid and like old, and, you know, when I'm learning, but it does keep us alive.
Yeah, I think that feeling, or the lack of that feeling, I certainly like. And it's really interesting because I often find myself working with people. I work with people across most age ranges, but there's definitely a middle ground in that 30s, 40s kind of space as well for me. It feels like that's the point where a lot of people are looking around and saying, wait a minute, all this stuff that I was promised, all this stuff I thought was going to happen, hasn't happened, probably isn't going to happen. So what do I do? You know, well, I don't know what to do. I think that's a really, really interesting question for me. It's like, well, you know, it's like, well, we don't know what to do. It's one of those really funny things. No one really knows what to do. Anyone tells you that they know what to do is probably trying to sell you something. And that being able to explore that, and like you say, the liberation of the expectation and not having to worry about that is so freeing in all sorts of ways. Yeah, I think it's great. Yeah.
What I was going to say, yeah, it's fascinating. I think that when you do get to that age where you just start to question everything, and I think it's important for us to question everything, you know, to not believe everything that is told to us, to not believe everything that is out there, to go and, you know, do your own due diligence and then make an informed decision. Obviously go out and, you know, get all the facts, but also make an informed decision. And, you know, that very often that can be the exact process that can just set us off on a trajectory. And, you know, I didn't leave corporate until 5 years ago. You know, I feel like the last 5 years has been like a lifetime because of, you know, all the knowledge, all the new ideas, the way that I've grown. I'm like a completely different person, you know, inside and outside. So yeah, we're all on this incredible journey and experience together, and to actually allow the worries about other people's opinions to hold us back from, you know, having the biggest and best experience in this life, I think is a, you know, it's a real shame. So I'm all for breaking free of that, because I was certainly held back and restrained by it for a long time.
Yeah, it's interesting when I reflect on my own experience of leaving the kind of normal path, and I had this feeling that almost like time was running away with itself, and that not very much was happening every year, and it was all starting to blur into quite a samey thing. And since I took similar, you know, left large organizations and left the well-defined path, that yeah, definitely, if I look back, it does feel like a lifetime, even though it's only been, for me, only about just 2.5 years, so half the time you've been doing it. So yeah, it's an amazing thing. I think that relationship between how we're kind of feeling and experiencing ourselves, and how we're feeling and experiencing the world, and how other people experience us, because I think that's the other bit of this, you know, is the who do you think you are, the authority figure that's standing there and going like, you know, you need to justify yourself, is actually, the strange thing is, you know, it's like when you worry about what people think about you too much, when you worry about it, when you kind of focus on it, actually it's harder for people to relate to you, and harder for people to see you in your kind of full wonderfulness than if you're not worrying about it. It's a strange thing. So actually, weirdly, I also feel less challenged to justify myself now, less regular. People don't do that now. There's a kind of energy thing, a project. You kind of, people know when they can do that, and when someone's grounded enough and okay enough in themselves that then it's not going to work somehow. It's not going to be. They're not going to feel little when they're gonna get a difficult answer back instead.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think it's definitely, I think, the way that we communicate as humans, it's all about energy. Yes, we use words and body language, and of course that's all got a factor in, but but we can read each other really, really easily. You can go into a room and you can read the energy of the room, even if you don't think you can. Like, we will pick up on things. So I think that there's definitely a certain energy and vibration to somebody who really knows themselves, who understands themselves, who've done the work, who've got over, the shame, the crap, the limiting beliefs, who've, forgiven all the people that, we think that have got need to be forgiven, and, just done all that work. And that inner work really is about just feeling really at one with ourselves, and really having unwavering faith in ourselves and the process. So at one with, where I call it the universe. So, I like to work with the universe. I manifest with the universe. I'm like in the universal flow. Like, I'm a good manifester. Whatever I want to send out will come back into me. But there's a certain energy around that, a self-assuredness, and people can read that. So people will know instinctively whether, you're someone to be reckoned with or not, someone to be respected or not, someone, that they're going to be able to control or dominate or not. And all of this comes down to our relationship with ourselves. It's our relationships with ourselves that is healed first, and then in turn we can then go and heal and have that wonderful relationship with others. For sure, it's a spiritual journey.
Absolutely. It's one of the really interesting things I came to as I was exploring this for myself, is actually how much people take your word for it. They do just take your word for how you feel about yourself. They'll start from that as a position, largely, in how they relate to you. And so if you do have, and I think this is one of the really, this I'd actually like to get into this next, really, is it's all very well us saying this, but beliefs aren't, it's not enough for us to say you don't have to do this. It's actually quite significant work very often to shift beliefs and move beliefs and work with them. We can't just believe something different. We can't just through force of will. We can try. I don't think it's a very healthy way to approach it personally. And you can get some of the way there, but actually there's something more kind of whole, more gentle in a way, that feels like how we work with this. So I'd really like to explore with you how, if someone's resonating with a lot of this and thinking, well, okay, I feel this is something that, this feels like an issue, this feels like something for me. What can they start to do? How could they start to work with this? How can they start to explore this?
Yeah, well, I mean, in my experience, in my own experience, and also, talking into the experience of the entrepreneurial women that I help through this very process, I think an important factor in this, and changing the way that we think about ourselves, or changing the way that we think about a certain situation, is to experience it. So it's an experience. So it's not there's so many amazing books out there, and there's so many amazing videos that you can watch, and you will learn stuff from it. But actually, to create that shift within ourselves, it's to be experienced. So how do we do that? Well, we start to look for ways that we can start to feel differently about ourselves. I think the first thing really is, the first step to really making any change is, first of all, to get very, very crystal clear about what you want to achieve and the reasons why. So what do you want to create in your life? So if you're watching this and you're like, okay, I resonate with this, I want to create a shift in my life, and I want to do something differently, and I want to stop worrying about the opinions of others and have a voice. And well, why do you want to do that? What's your reason? What's your why? There's that great TED talk by Simon Sinek, Know Your Why. Yeah, so start with your why. You can Google that and watch it on YouTube, and it's great. It's only about 20 minutes, but it really helps you to understand, the whole process of going through change and getting to a goal that you want to achieve is to really understand why you want to do it. So you've got your why, you understand that, and then it's really sort of looking for ways that you can create more joy and bliss in your life. So like what is it that, like, I love to meditate, I love to go running, I love Kundalini yoga, I love to do sound baths, I love to do sacred ceremony and work with shamans. I'm like super attuned to the moon and love to do like full moon ceremonies and things like that. Like, these are the things that kind of float my boat and get me like my juice is flowing and make me feel really good about myself. I think that if you can look for experiences in your life that bring you joy, that make you feel really good about yourself, automatically you will start to feel better about yourself. You will start to feel confident about yourself. And one of the things that I was teaching actually on a course the other day was shadow boxing. And I don't know if you've ever boxed or you've ever done any boxing training. So I used to go and work out with this amazing guy. It was actually in your neck of the woods, just in Hove. There's a great gym down on the seafront by the sports centre, by the swimming baths.
Oh yeah.
And I used to go and I got it into my head. I was working with some people that were really into like mixed martial arts, and I got it into my head that that's what I wanted to do. Anyway, I watched a few videos on that, and then I was like, no, I don't want to do that. But I really got into boxing. But one of the ways that I trained for the boxing was shadow boxing. Okay, so instead of actually physically hitting someone, I've never actually physically hit anyone in my life. What my trainer would get me to do would be to shadow box. So I'd practice, I'd pretend. Okay, I pretend to box. So then when it came to doing the training with him, it was like I didn't even need to think about it. It was just like muscle memory. And if you look at the great sportsmen, like I don't know if you've watched the documentary on Netflix about the F1 drivers and the way that they practice. I mean, it's just like I don't know if you've ever been to Formula One. But we go to Monaco, the Monaco one, when you're allowed to, and it's just like scary stuff. They're going through tunnels, they're going around the hairpin bends, like something ridiculous, like 200 miles an hour, maybe even more. And they're under high pressure, and the necks are under high pressure. It's so intense. But what they do, the way that they practice, and they showed on the Netflix thing, is that they sit like in these these wooden cars with like like toy cars, and they go through it in their head. They visualize and they practice. So they're shadow boxing. Tiger Woods used to talk about it all the time. He would practice in his head, and then he would go through the motions and practice before he actually went to a match. And I think that that's so important for us in life, and something that we don't quite often feel is of great benefit. So, to practice, to practice just something as simple as walking into a room and feeling confident and taking questions from people, or you know, if you want to go and speak on a stage, standing on a stage, taking questions, like practice. And I think the more that we can visualize it and the more that we can practice it, the more our brain will start to believe that that is the truth, because our brains don't know the difference between reality and fantasy, right? They've no idea. It's no idea. So if you tell your brain enough times, that's why positive affirmations are so amazing. You tell yourself, you repeat to yourself that you are beautiful, you're clever, you're intelligent, you're wealthy enough times, your brain will actually start to think that. And then what will happen is your habits will change. So we can actually practice all of this. So anything that you want to bring into fruition, I would say, decide what you want to do, and then do the shadow boxing and do the visualization, and really start to believe and show up as if it's true. You know, I want to be like I want to be a successful, like, 7-figure entrepreneur. How would I show up if I was a successful 7-figure entrepreneur? How would I be dressing? Where would I be going? What kind of conversations would I be doing? What kind of events would I be going to? You know, like, be that person, because you're that person already. Time doesn't exist. Einstein proved that. Time is just we're just experiencing what we're experiencing on this, you know, in this 3D world. There's other D's worlds out there. There's so many worlds that, you know, we are like living a different life in. And so I really am a big believer in fantasy and imagination and visualization and shadow boxing. That is a big superpower that we have.
I love that. I think the idea that if we can imagine it, we can make it happen. And it's a really interesting one. I think almost like, what, for me, the thing is, what are you allowed to imagine? What do you allow yourself to imagine? And actually being playful with that. You know, I love I really do like, I think for me, actually, there's a couple of things I've learned is, actually, there are lots of ways to achieve the things that we're trying to do. And when you look at the really elite performers, they start by loving what they're doing. You know, no one makes it to be an F1 driver without absolutely loving that experience, and that because there are difficult bits, there are tough bits, and they're actually, but that's what carries us through, and that's what carries us through the repetitiveness of the practice. And like, but finding the things that you absolutely enjoy and you love just for the sake of doing them, you know, and then letting that lead your development, for me, has been a huge part of it, instead of doing what other people thought I should be doing. You can get fairly good at that, but it's bloody hard work and it's not much fun. So I think, like, letting yourself do what you want to do, you know, and explore what you want to explore, and follow that is a part of that. And yeah, there's a discipline element, there's a staying with it when it's tough, but still being connected with that joy of doing it. The other part, I think, for me is that when you've got that ambitious imagination and you want to go to a place, it's like, it's okay to do small bits. It's okay you don't have to get all the way there in one go. You know, if you want to start talking to people more comfortably, start talking, just like you say, shadowboxing, talk to the mirror, then talk to one other person, then talk to a small group of people, then, you know, and build. You can build up till it feels more fun than scary. I think that's my metric. It always will feel a little bit scary, but it's like, what's more fun than scary? That's how I like to. So, and when I've hit that threshold for a certain thing, I'm like, well, I'll go and do that then. But until that, you don't have to push yourself to, you know, you don't have to be. The flip side of it is, like, yeah, you can be inspired by other people, but you don't have to do it exactly like them. You can do it like you, which will be different.
Yeah, no, you don't need to do it exactly like other people at all. But I actually think it should be scary.
It should be a bit scary. I definitely think it should be scary.
It should be terrifying. It should be absolutely. If I mean, seriously, if you want to play a big game and create success within your business and life, then you set goals that absolutely terrify and petrify yourself. And if you listen to any like successful entrepreneur out there and listen to their life story, there will be times where they literally like were about to lose the house or they've gone bankrupt. You know, like I can't tell you the amount of entrepreneurs that I speak to, that I interview, you know, and they're like, they've been a bankrupt 3 times. Now, I'm not saying that that is the strategy, but what I'm saying is you need to be prepared to take that risk and to scare yourself, because it's like, how are you going to like how are you going to push yourself out your comfort zone? We grow when we're out of our comfort zone. There's the I'm talking about Netflix a lot. They're not sponsoring this, by the way.
Yeah.
But there's another show that I've been watching, and I can't remember what it's called. It's about the American designer who was really good friends with Liza Minnelli. Begins with B, Bartram or something like that. I can't remember. But it was fascinating watching it, because he was like mega successful in the end. He had this incredible like fashion house, you know, amazing franchises, like was partying at, you know, all the big places in New York. He hung out with all the, you know, all the stars. But actually on the journey, you know, so many times he was like, we're going to lose all our money. We're just going to, like, it's done. Like, there were that close so many times to just going bust and losing all the money. You know, his accountant was there and there's no money left. And I just see it time and time again. And like, that's why it's really scary. And that's why there's only a few people that will get to that level, because they're the ones that are prepared to go there, to really go there, and to push themselves out their comfort zone and get scared. And it's not comfortable and it's not nice, but that's why we do the inner work. That's why we do the work to calm our nervous system, so that we don't, you know, so that we don't like completely like go into meltdown, you know, when these things are happening, because entrepreneurship is like up and down, up and down, up and down. I just find it fascinating to listen to other people's journeys and for it to be the same trajectory.
Yeah, I think for me, I think we're probably talking about the same thing. I think about it slightly differently. I think about, you know, when you introduce the range of possibilities, is we kind of, you know, we can choose to narrow and constrict to the all of the possibilities, and that keeps us safe, because it keeps us from the bad, the far end of the bad, but it also keeps us from the far end of the good. You know, and that breadth. And if you do want to move towards the far end of the good, you kind of have to allow that the other stuff then is in the range of possibility. You know, it is possible that you might go bankrupt. It is, you can, and you're not going to you don't want it, and you don't, you know, but being okay with that as a possibility. If you're not okay with that, if you can't tolerate it, if you have to avoid it, you can't be comfortable enough. You can't ever quiet the nervous system in that space. And I think for me, it is an embodied thing. You know, it is how we approach that on an embodied level. So yeah, I very much agree. But it is it's a practice thing. You've got to put yourself in the situation, but not a situation that then pushes you to overwhelm. You know, it has to be challenging, but not overwhelming. Yeah, and calibrating that is often the challenge.
Well, that's why you hire a coach.
Yeah.
To stop you, like, that's why you work with us.
That's true.
Because we stop you going into overwhelm. I mean, you know, this is it's very difficult to do these things on your own. Very difficult. You know, we need other people to guide us through it, and to, you know, to be able to process things through. And that's why, you know, that's why my clients come and work with me. That's why your clients come and work with you. That's why I, you know, pay my coaches for, you know, the work that they do with us. It's important to get others to help us, to support us, to do that. Really important.
No, I think it's very true. And developing that capacity, developing that, being comfortable in that space is actually an embodied thing, you know, and we can learn from other people and how they almost how they feel in the show. It's funny, before we went on the show, I was talking, Abby is much more experienced and much more comfortable in front of camera than most people who come on the show, and we were talking about, like, well, a lot of what I do is actually, well, I'm comfortable here. And so it means other people who wouldn't necessarily be as comfortable can then be. And that's kind of an embodied thing and kind of a practice thing. And we kind of share that. And so if there's a space that you're exploring, finding someone who is already kind of comfortable there and can guide you in that space will get you there much faster.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, holding a space for somebody else's growth and transformation is a magical thing.
Yeah, definitely. So if someone has really resonated with this and wants to find out a bit more about you and what you do, or wants to get in touch and carry on the conversation, how could they do that? What's the best way for them to get in touch?
Yeah, so the best way for them to get in touch really would be to go to my website, abigailrebecca.com. Or if you Google Illuminated Leaders, you'll be able to find me straight away. I also hang out on Instagram and Facebook. My handle is @Illuminated Leaders. I'm also quite getting involved in TikTok. Have you been TikToking, Matthew?
I'm like, it's one of those things that I don't get. So with technology, sometimes I'm just like, oh, that's a good idea, and sometimes I'm just like, I don't quite get it yet. And if I hang around there, I feel like I haven't found a reason to hang around there enough to get it yet. So I would be really interested to know what are you doing on TikTok?
What am I doing on TikTok? So I'm not doing like TikTok challenges or anything like that. I'll just leave that for, the teens. But I'm a big fan of repurposing work. I'm a big fan of making the most impact with the least work. That really is my philosophy for life, completely. So I repurpose a lot of my work. So, like you're going to do with this, we'll do the interview. You're doing it live. I'm sure that it'll be posted all over social media. I'll post it as well. And then your VA will take little snippets and put them. So these little snippets. So if I do like a Facebook Live within my group, I've got a Facebook group as well, Illuminate from Within. So if you're an entrepreneurial woman watching this, there's some incredible global entrepreneurial women in there. You can always pop in there as well. But I do a Facebook Live training to camera, and then I'll just edit it. So I'll just edit like a 30-minute snippet and put it on TikTok. Or I don't know, what was I doing the other day? Oh, I know. I've put a hammock in my tree, like one of those hammock chairs. So we've got a beautiful old oak tree in the garden. So I was swinging in that, and I was like, Kev, come and do a video. So I put some music onto that, just like having fun. And I love it. I love the energy of it. And you can also then turn a TikTok into a reel on Instagram. So again, you can repurpose it. So that's what I'm doing. So I'm also on TikTok at Illuminated Leaders. If you want to follow me, if you want to get down with the kids, Matthew, I'll be looking out for you.
I'll do
your first TikTok.
We shall see.
I
haven't even fully got my head around Instagram yet. So yeah, and I've worked in technology for a lot of my career, so I just don't know why I'm.
I think as we've just been talking about, I think it's important to have fun while you're doing these things, and if it's a chore, then probably the energy is not. It's
not the thing for you, not the space for you. Yeah.
So the more fun I have on social media, the more engagement and that I get in return, and the more fun that I have. So those are the ways that you can find me. And I've also got a free gift that I'd love to share. It's an ebook. It's called Illuminate from Within. And it's more of an experience more than a book. So you can read it, you can explore. There's lots of space for you to journal. There's a lot of self-inquiry. I'm a massive fan of self-inquiry. The answers lie within ourselves. And there's it's kind of like the first steps really for you to take if you want to be more visible within your business. So that's a beautiful free ebook as well that I want to share with you.
Lovely, thank you so much. And there are links to both Abby's website and to the ebook directly in the show notes. So if you're watching on anywhere there are actually show notes, then please do check them out directly. I think it's a lovely thing to do, and I think, you know, when we've spoken about how important it is to experience things, you know, actually being able to have something where you can start to work through that, if this is something that's resonated for you, would be a really good place to start, rather than just, you know, it being another thing that you think, oh, I should do that too, and then don't. Yeah, well, I'm saying that from my own experience, because I'm really good at saying, I should do that, I want to do that, and then not. So yeah, go and check it out for sure. Brilliant. Thank you so much for appearing on the show. Really enjoyed this conversation. I think it's a really interesting one, and slightly different to some of the other conversations we have on the show. So I'd be really interested to see how people have found it. So yeah, if you're watching, please do let us know. Share this out, and really just ask questions of yourself, of us. You've got the ways to get in touch. Leave comments, and we'll be able to get back to you. Whatever it is, I'd love to hear from you, and yeah, find out what worked for you. Recordings for the other shows are also available on the YouTube channel, and the podcast available under, if you search Delightful Dissent on whatever your favorite podcast platform happens to be. I hope that got you thinking, and I hope it got you, challenging some of your own ideas, and challenging some ideas that are out and about there. Next episode, I'm going to be talking to Philippa Aspie about the assumption that I need answers. And this is a really interesting one, because it feels like a world that's kind of obsessed with answers, and I'm not sure that's always a helpful thing. I think it's important to think about the questions we're asking too, and whether we even need answers or questions at all. So we're going to really get into that one. There's going to be a short break in the schedule though, so we're going to be back at 1 p.m. UK time on Wednesday the 9th of June. So we're having a couple of weeks break, and I'm having a holiday from doing this every single week, which is nice. I love doing the show, but also it's nice to have a nice thought to not do it for a couple of weeks. I'm sure I'll be I'll be missing it. I'll be missing you, everyone, very soon. We'll be back and seeing you shortly. So I hope, that all it really remains for me to say is, thank you very much for appearing on being on the show, Abby. It was great to have you on.
Thank you.
And thank you everyone for watching. So please go out there and make some delightful dissent of your own. Goodbye.